schools can do. It is something our governments have to do. The government must stop seeing private education and public education as two different things. They must see education as education, and it doesn't matter who provides it. I am of the view that primary and secondary education are things that should be compulsory, should be affordable, should be free for those who want to go to primary and secondary education. I think that tertiary education should cost money. What government can do is to set up loan schemes and to bursary schemes to support the students who go to private schools and other schools. I mean, if your parents are taxpayers and they can't afford, you can take a loan from government to fund their education. But in building infrastructure for education, the first thing that must happen, number one, we need to return back to school inspection. School supervision is critical. I've always said that the problem is not that the Southeast is not doing better than the other parts of the country. But let me warn people who make that comparison. If you take out the northeast part of the country, bordering 6 states of Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, Taraba, Gombe, and you make it a country of its own, it will be one of the most illiterate parts of Africa. Their student ratio is so low that the Southeast should make no such comparison. If you look at the Northwest, which has about 36 million people by the 2006 census, has about 18 million registered voters. If you check the number of applicants to JAMB, I think the last time I checked was 2017, it was 153,000. Imo State, with 4 million people population by the same 2006 census, had 123,000 students who applied for JAMB. So the comparison with the Nigerian average is not useful for the Southeast. What we need to do is to match ourselves with our global peers, or in Nigeria, match us with Delta, with Edo, Ondo, Ogun, because those are the states that have invested in education and they have the outcomes that come with good education. So number one, I think we should benchmark ourselves with global peers to be able to see that we can deliver quality education. Number two, I think the government should build the ICT backbone for our educational institutions. That is to say, the fiber cables, if you come to Oka now, there's fiber cable from MTN going from Enugu to Onitsha on the left side of the road where Nnamdi Azikiwe University is. I think the government should make fiber cable access to the schools possible, both secondary and university, at least to start with, the universities down to the secondary schools and the polytechnics. I think the second part of it is that we need to think out about the remuneration of teachers, so that we will remove teachers from our normal remuneration system. Now, we need not add more money to them, but we need to give them access to non-financial remuneration. Once you are qualified as a teacher and you deliver teaching outcomes, you are entitled to borrow money from the state cooperative for housing loan, which you don't need to repay if you continue teaching for the rest of your years in the school. So the loan is repaid by your being a teacher. So we need to figure out how to give them non-financial incentives. And then the third one is that because we are going to be compared to global peers and we're looking at outcomes, our state governments need to expand the capacity of our private and public universities, because only 40% of university applicants make it to university now. We need to at least see that we increase that figure to about 60% of those who apply and see that they get to university. In terms of clear indication and outcome, the supervisory framework of our education is very primitive. We need to change that. In New York, a Nigerian lady, a Yoruba lady, is in charge of the state school inspectorate, the IT system for the school inspectorate. What that does is that they can tell you each student which teachers taught them, how they performed in every subject, and what is the outcome for them when they take the SAT and the SAT. So we need to see the outcome of our students after being taught by teachers. What was the outcome and where did they end up with? So I think that this conversation will be most useful because we have policymakers here, we have school administrators here. If we can all work together to produce a working paper on critical outcomes for different stakeholders. And then finally, we have to grow the economy of the Southeast to sustain people who educate in the Southeast to remain in the Southeast. The Southeast does not support middle-class living now, so everybody is heading to the Golden Triangle. So I think that going forward from here, if we can document all the decisions taken here and turn it into a working paper, which we can serve to the state government, so it is not a political document, it's just a document on how to do the right and low-cost investment, activate what is already existing so that we can target outcomes that will raise us from poverty. Don't forget, the public schools, the missionary schools help the Southeast to overcome educational disadvantage and become a prosperous unit. I think that where we are today, education is the only access we have to produce a new generation that will be globally employable, that can access the global community and be able to contribute their quota globally without being hamstrung by the geography of the Southeast. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.